I'm captured by your charm, enchanted by your ways, in the magic of your eyes.
Hi everyone, and Merry Christmas from Sailing Vessel MiG. It is cold in Anacortes right now. We have snow on the ground, which, I mean, to most of the country right now, with all the snow and everything, that's not a big deal in the wintertime. But for here, we get about one good snowfall a year, and this is a pretty good sized snowfall, and it's cold. It's, it's way below freezing right now. So we're not used to that. We're wimps. And it's definitely not the time of year to be on a boat. I am working on MiG. Today I'm on the boat. I have the little fire going. I'll just show you. I've got the little Dickinson heater going on MiG, and I've got my electric heater going. Actually, it's a little warmer up here because I'm pretty well right next to the heater. Anyway, I am working on the cushions. I have made 3 cushions so far. Here's one. Even did the zipper right on this one. So I'm pretty happy with how my cushion stuff is going. I have figured it out, and I'm feeling much better about it now. Today's video is not a working on the boat video. It's another story video, and it's one that I had to tell. And it's back in Oriental. I told you about being in Oriental and how it was our favorite place, but I specifically left out Christmas. I talked about Thanksgiving and I talked about New Year, but I left Christmas out because I wanted to do this video specifically about Christmas on the boat with our little kids. They were very little at the time. Benny was only, I think, 4.5. They were little. And what I haven't told you about is our house burning down in Montana. It had all of our stuff in it, had all of the kids' toys, and that's a story for another day. But when we moved onto the boat, everything that we had in the world that wasn't on the boat was at our house in Montana, and when it burned down, the kids lost everything. And their first Christmas ever on the boat was in Oriental, North Carolina. And they were very concerned, especially Benny and Caleb, the little ones. They were worried about, and Canyon too, I think, about whether or not Santa could find us on the boat. And how was Santa going to get down that tiny little chimney, kind of like this one, onto the boat? We had a little Dickinson heater on Wandering Dolphin as well. And we had shared that. I worked at the provision company, if you watched the last video on Oriental. And Becky worked at M&M's. And we shared our angst a little bit about our kids struggling with how is Christmas going to work on the boat. We did set up Christmas tree on the boat every year. And we tried to make Christmas as normal as possible with our kids. But that very first Christmas, not being at the house in Montana, was difficult for them. And the town had a Santa. He was a captain, a boat captain, who always let his beard grow out into Santa-size white beard, a real beard. And he had a real Santa suit that he had made for him. It wasn't a cheap knockoff mall Santa type of suit. It had a real Santa hat, and I'm telling you, he looked like Santa. The town got together and they gathered up presents for our kids. This makes me almost want to cry again. Oriental does that to me. And they called me and asked me to come bring the dinghy into the town dock on Christmas morning. And I didn't know why. I was like, what's going on? And I took the dinghy to the town dock, and there was Santa standing at the town dock. And he had had his red bag over his shoulder, and he was carrying toys for my kids. And we loaded him up into the dinghy, and all the kids were lined up on the bow of the boat as I brought Santa out to the boat on the dinghy. And he said, "Ho, ho, ho. I heard there were some kids out here that I thought they were in Montana, but I've been looking all over for them, and I was told they were here. And I've come with your presents, if you'll allow me aboard your boat." And they were all excited, and they let him climb up on the boat, of course. And he came down below, and he acted, even though the man who was Santa, he's a boat captain. He acted like he had never been on a boat. "Well, show me your home." And he goes around. The kids were so excited, and they showed everything to Santa. And then they all sat on his lap, and he let them tell stories about living on the boat. And he gave them their gifts, and then he left. And we found out later that he died later that year. I think that was his last Christmas in Oriental. And it's very special. But the story doesn't end there. The next year we sailed to the Bahamas, and then made our way to St. Thomas, to Water Island. And we were in Water Island for the first Christmas after that. And Water Island kind of became our winter home. We would anchor out in Honeymoon Bay, and the kids still call that home, really. In their brain, Water Island is where they grew up. And that first year, we heard that Santa was going to be on the beach. And the kids were very excited because they met Santa the year before, especially the three little boys. Benny especially was certain that Santa was back. And so we went to the beach, and our friend Eric Ackerson, he became our friend over the years that we lived in St. Thomas on Water Island. And Eric is Water Island's Santa. I don't know if he still is today, but Eric dressed like an island Santa. He had the beard, and he had the Santa suit, and he had flip-flops with the tops of boots up his leg, but the bottom was flip-flops and bare feet. And it's just wonderful. He does that every year. All the kids come down to the beach and sit on his lap, and he does the Santa thing. Well, when we got to the beach, the kids all ran up to meet Santa, and Benny held back. He stood back farther than the other kids. And Eric, when he was finished with the other kids, he says, "Come on, Benny." And Benny looked at him and shook his head, and he said, "You're not Santa." And Eric said, "Yeah, I'm Santa Claus." And Benny came up and sat on his lap, and he looked at him, and he kept looking at him. And then he said, "You know, it's okay if you say that you're not the Santa, real Santa, because I know you're not." And Eric was like, he didn't know what to do. And he was like, well, I'm Santa's representative. And Benny said, "I know you're not the real Santa, because I met the real Santa. I met him last year in Oriental." And it took us quite a few years later on to convince Benny that there is no real Santa. Matter of fact, Benny today may still think that there's a real Santa. And I guess in my mind, there was a real Santa. It's not just Captain Larry in Oriental who was Santa. It's not just Eric Ackerson that's Santa. But it's people like that really choose to go out of their way to be there for kids on Christmas Day. That's what Santa is, to me, anyway. And the best Santa we ever had, the best Christmases we ever had, the very best Christmases we ever had were Christmases we spent on Wandering Dolphin as a family, We enjoy our Christmas now. We have fun. Everybody's grown up, and we do a lot of fun stuff. We have kind of different Christmas traditions. But I still miss those Christmases on Wandering Dolphin. Merry Christmas if you're on a boat or if you're not. And I hope Santa shows up